Welcome back to Dark Thoughts. I'm your host, Maurice Kelly. And in the previous weeks, I've been really covering the idea of cell phones and their rise from when they were first created to how they are now. But I rarely ever went back to the roots of cell phones and what change could really bring about if they hadn't been created. Now, as a bit of a precursor, the cell phone was created or unveiled, for that matter, on March 6th, 1983, but cell service for cell phones wasn't really implemented until around October 12th of that year. But a bigger reason why the cell phone was created was in light of a potential AT&T monopoly over the cell phone service. At the time, Motorola had around two-thirds of portable phones, portable car phones at the time, and if AT&T had claimed monopoly over cell phones, then they had to create phones or phone services that were specific to AT&T and what they could account for, or what they could cater for. Now, the argument that Motorola had with the FCC in their outcry against the monopoly was that if AT&T had owned or controlled the market or controlled the monopoly on cell phone service and cell phones, that hardware innovation would be limited. Now, the bigger debate that people had about whether or not the cell phone was created, or the cell phone, or the monopoly for that matter, was not initiated because of that that argument that Motorola had is questionable. But the fact of the matter is, had that move not been made, the potential that AT&T could control the cellular market meant that cell phones created by any company would have to be tailored towards what AT&T could provide service wise, and would severely be limited by what AT&T could provide. And if they had control of the cellular market, a lot of innovations that phones have had throughout the years would not have been made, or at the very least not have been made at the rate that they have been made up to this point. Think about things like 4G service, or LTE, or texting for that matter. These functions would not have been created at the rate that they would have been created, because there would not have been much of a direct need for it, because companies would not have that much competition over that service. Think about this: your iPhones nowadays, your Samsungs, Galaxies, all the innovative phones that have been created up until this point. Think about a world without that level of competition when it comes to smartphones. There'd be no iPhones, no Samsungs, and a lot of the more popular phones and phone services that people have been accustomed to now. Think of how limited a cell phone's use would be if that move to create the first cell phone had not been initiated. I am using my phone now to record this, so you can imagine this probably wouldn't have become a possibility. Posting this from my phone would not have been a possibility. There are a lot of things that would have been hampered had that move not been made, regardless of whether or not it had any big influence in the FCC's decision. The fact of the matter is, that argument and that the production of that phone allowed for more innovations to be created. And at this point now, although Motorola is not nowhere close to being at the forefront of cell phone technology, it definitely paved the way for what we now classify as the best cell phones, the best cell service, best internet speeds on a cell phone network are comparable to speeds of wireless internet. You know, those type of innovations, had AT&T won that monopoly, would probably not have happened at the rate that they happened, because they would not need to compete with anyone else for that kind of service, and progress would have been slowed, because there was not, at the time that a cell phone was created, there was not so much of a strong need for cell phones, as landlines were way more inexpensive and were way more cost efficient in terms of the cost of the service, installation and stuff. At the time a cell phone was created, it was around upwards of $3,000. So just having that level of innovation after that, allowing companies to be able to create more and better services, allowed us to have the phones that we have today, and will allow us to have the phones that we have in the future. Thank you for letting me share that. It was a great experience making these videos, making these podcasts. I enjoy the time. I enjoy your input. This is Dark Thoughts. I'm Maurice Kelly, signing off.